Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video. This is going to be something slightly different to my usual Grand Arena content in that we're going to be talking about defense mods today. And I know there's been a lot of stigma around defense mods being not as optimal as using like health or tenacity sets or something like that, but obviously people are starting to realize now that defense is a very good stat with obviously super amounts of defense you see on Datacrons and things and stacking defense. As you guys know, it is very frustrating to fight against those teams and characters that have a lot of high defense. So whole objective of this video is to go over a few characters from each alignment from dark side and light side, go over who I think you should be modding for defense and just to be looking out for those defensive stats. And we'll just generally talk about the defense mods in general and how that should help you in all areas of the game, but mainly in PvP. So if you do enjoy this and would like to see some similar content to this, obviously make sure to leave a like and comment down below. And make sure to hit that sub button down below so you don't miss any future Star Wars Galaxy Heroes content. And let's jump straight into it. So very quickly, before we jump into this list, I just wanted to talk about the defense and how that actually applies to the in-game stats. So defense will increase both your armor and your resistance that you have on each character. Obviously, resistance is the reduced damage from special abilities, as you can see there. And then armor rating is obviously the reduced damage from abilities that deal physical damage. So most characters in the game have a higher armor percentage than resistance, and we're going to be focusing on that throughout my list today because I just feel like that is probably the most common way that people attack in this game. There are very few characters that actually do special damage, or at least from my recollection there isn't, but there could actually be. But most characters in the game, if you just like mod for a decent amount of armor, they're going to have a decent amount of resistance as well, because their resistance rating is usually lower than armor. But in certain scenarios, there are some characters that actually have higher resistance ratings, like Mace Windu here, who has quite a low physical armor rating of 46% here, and then 56% on the resistance. And I do believe there are other characters that do have this sort of significance and difference, which is Jedi Master Luke and Leia, but you're not modding either of them for defense. So that's kind of just a brief introduction to both types of the defense and how that actually affects armor and resistance. But anyway, that's enough waffling about this, and let's just go straight into my list. Okay, so the first character on my list that I would like to talk about that you may want to consider modding for pure defense is Sith Empire Trooper. This is because he has a lot of defense in his actual kit, and it is also to do with that his relics and his mastery gain, as you're going to see in a bit. Most of these characters on this list, I just will say, are actually tanks. It makes the most sense having armor on a tank, and just extra defense obviously going to help them survive a bit longer. But some obviously prefer defense and some prefer health and protection. So hopefully I can give a bit of guidance to what you should be doing with those mods you might have lying around. So Sith Empire Trooper himself, he has an extra 100% defense from his unique. He also gains defense up whenever a Sith ally uses a special ability or falls below 50% health. He gains defense up for 2 turns. So that's an extra 50% defense on top of that when he has that buff. And yeah, he is going to be starting off with that extra 50% as well at the beginning, with the defense up at the start of each encounter. He does have obviously armor in his relics as well. As you can see, the higher relic you get him, the more mastery stats you'll gain. And within his mastery, like most of the characters that I have on my list, they do have increases to their armor, health, steel, and protection. So you're going to get a lot of benefit out of actually using defense mods with Sith Empire Trooper, especially when you can get his armor pretty high. Don't really need any speed, and you can get him up to like 75% armor, which is obviously a really great stat to hit, bearing in mind that he gains an extra 75% defense from having 3 sets of defense mods. And as you know, with the 100% defense as well from his unique, and then defense up, it's a lot of defense, and you can basically have a Sith Empire Trooper Datacron, but just as a character. So imagine what he can be like if you put a 300 or 200% Datacron on him. He could be a really annoying character to beat, so make sure to watch out for him. Next on my list is another tank, but for a different faction. We do have a First Order Stormtrooper. He has the joint third highest armor rating in the game. I think it's joint with like Malak and Sunfak, I believe. They have a 64 armor rating. The highest in the game is 66, which is 5s. As you can see, I do have him modded for defense as well. He gains armor through his mastery stats as well, which he obviously gained from doing the relics upgrades. And he does have defense up on his second special, which is obviously his taunt ability. So That also means he gets an extra 50% defense. And again, like Sith Empire Trooper, you can get him somewhat tanky. You don't need to be amazingly tanky because obviously you're taking that reduced damage from the armor stats, and you can get him again to around its 75% armor. And not too far away, the next one is just the regular Empire Stormtrooper. He has a lot of defense in the kit like the other troopers that we've been talking about, but this one is a lot more increase from just the base stats to begin with, because on his Wall of Stormtroopers unique, he gains 40% defense for each living Empire ally. And obviously, as soon as they start to get defeated, the 40% offense will start to come into play. So he will lose defense and gain offense. But obviously, that's starting, what is it they're going to be? For 40, 80, 160% defense, if my maths is correct. And I don't know whether that counts himself, so it might be 200%. I don't really know how that actually works out there, but that is obviously a lot of extra defense. He gives extra defense to Imperial Trooper allies as well. And as you can see with his armor modding, not the tankiest. I only have him at Relic 3. I would actually like to bump him up a bit more to obviously make the most out of these mastery stats. Obviously you can see with increased armor there. But even with that, 67.5% is still a decent amount of armor there, and should make things really annoying, especially on like an Iden or a LVT, for example. And last but not least, for the dark side characters on this list, I do have Ninth Sister. Like the other tanks we've talked about for dark side, she has a lot of extra defense in her kit, which I think is really good to utilize with defense modding as well. So the first bit in her kit that mentions defense is her ground pound ability. She will gain 10% defense per damage that she's done to someone that has purge, if that makes any sense. So for each enemy afflicted with purge and damaged by this ability, Ninth Sister gains 10% defense, stacking max 50% for 2 turns. So there's a lot of extra defense that you can just get off right off the bat, and obviously that will stack up if you can somehow decrease those cooldowns. But you can make her really tanky and annoying, and she obviously has a lot of high protection pool, which is how I've modded her over actual primary defense stats. But she also gains an extra set of defense as well for Empire allies, and these effects are doubled if she's in an Inquisitor squad. So I believe that's 50% if she's Inquisitors, and just 5% if she's just part of like an LV team, for example. But that like fluctuate between that percentage wise. I think that's how that works. And she is just obviously a very good tank again. She has the armor rating like the other tanks do in the mastery stats. You can get her health and protection pool up as well really high, and she has a fairly high armor rating anyway, so you can get her to 72% or 70% and above at Relic 7. So another great use for those defense mods lying around. And now we shall move on to some light side characters. Okay, so first up on my light side list is Big Zaalbar. He has the biggest opportunity in a Tarful team, which actually relies on defense as well. So if you're actually just looking for a generic team to put defense mods on, I'd probably just stick them in a Tarful squad, because you're going to benefit the most from having those mods. And now I'll show you the lead ability for that in a minute, but I just wanted to talk about Zaalbar because he is the biggest threat in that team, in that his AoE can nuke people within the right scenario. So as you can see, I do have the 3 defense mods on him, and the main reason for that is obviously his unique ability. He gains 20% defense each time he takes damage from an attack for 1 turn. So you bear in mind, if you mod him really slow, he's going to be really tanky anyway through the stacking defense and his health and protection pool. And when he gets that AoE, he's just going to absolutely nuke someone, because he would have gained so much defense. And through Tarful's lead, you're going to do a massive hit, which I will very quickly show you now. So Tarful's lead, you are going to be gaining a lot of extra defense as well. All allies gain 20% defense, which is double for Wookiee allies, so you're starting with 40% there. And this next bit is where it comes in really important for Zaalbar. So whenever a Wookiee ally taunts, which is Zaalbar does all the time, because he's going to taunt every time a ally falls below 100% health, all Wookiee allies will gain 10% defense stacking for the rest of the encounter, so that doesn't expire at all. And whenever blah blah blah, and then at the start of each allied Wookiee turn, they gain offense equal to 200% of their defense until the end of their turn. So as you can imagine, with 3 sets of defense mods, that's 75% start off with, gaining stacking defense 20% each one, 10% from an extra 40% from Tarful's lead, and then 10% every time he's taunting. you can just imagine what those offense numbers can do. You can see these Zaalbar AoEs where you're hitting like 200k plus on those big attacks there. And like it is with the light side or the dark side tanks I showed you, he does have the increases to his armor with his mastery stats. So even at Relic 5, you can get him decently tanky, really slow as well, and with a decent armor rating of 72%. So next up, I'm going to be talking about my light side equivalent of Sith Empire Trooper, in that she is a pre-taunting tank, and that is of course L337. Like the other tanks, she just gains a massive boost from defense through the extra armor she gains for her mastery. So at R5, she can be pretty tanky. I've only got 2 defense sets on her because I just went for the extra health as well. But the main reason for modding her with a bit of extra defense is not for that unique, but for this unique, where when she uses that Mark II special ability that gets granted to her, she will gain an extra 100% defense for the rest of the battle. Which obviously on top of any defense you have already is going to be a massive boost for her armor rating and just her survivability in general. And being a nuisance of a tank that she is, obviously with her passive cleansing and just her kit in general could just be quite annoying to deal with, especially with Vandals there and reviving her. It could be really annoying. So 50% defense obviously from the 2 mod sets that I have there. And we do have a decent amount of health and protection chunk there. Bit slow obviously because you don't really need the speed. But her armor rating at Relic 5 is 70%. You probably could mod that a bit more for more defense if you really wanted to, but I think I went more down the protection. But as you know, for anyone that obviously experiences like the high Relic 9 L3s, she can be really annoying, stacking max health. I think that's why I obviously went for down a little bit of the health route just to make her even more annoying. But she is obviously a great tank that's great in a lot of teams for obviously scoundrels, droids, or smugglers. So for the next 2 characters I'm going to be talking about, one is probably a bit down the road. It's a very new character in being Paz Vizsla. And the second character I'm not going to mention yet, but is probably a bit of a curveball from what probably a lot of you guys were expecting. But I do think it might be worth considering going down the road. But obviously talk about Paz first. He is a very recent character, and obviously a lot on his kit is all to do with defense and max health. Ignore this mod set that I have on him. It's just not optimal. I just threw some defense and health sets on him that I had lying around that I just wanted to keep hold of, to free some space in my mod storage for me to hoard some more mods that I'll probably never apply. But as you can see from his unique ability, which I haven't zated yet because I'm really running low on zetas, but he will gain a 10% defense and max health for each other Mandalorian ally, and an extra 15% defense and max health for each other light side Mandalorian ally. So I'm assuming that will stack with each other. So obviously if you have Mandalorian and their light side, you'll actually gain 25% defense, and obviously if Maul's there, for example, you only get 10% defense. That's kind of how I figure it works out. I don't know if it actually does. Someone will have to let me know down in the comments, but that is obviously going to make Vizsla a very annoying tank with all his protection up and stuff that he gets throughout his kit, resilient defense and stuff, critical avoidance, and yeah, gains an extra 10% defense as well, obviously through each stack of resilient defense he has. So he can be super annoying to beat. Obviously that resilient defense will stack out to a maximum of 10, so you could have 100% extra defense at some point. So I might go down the more defensive route, but we should obviously see how this plays out, because he's going to be very important, I believe, going forwards for just the Bo-Katan team, the new Bo-Katan team that we're getting, or just generally CG just like to do stuff with new characters. I wouldn't be surprised if we need to use Paz Vizsla or something in the next conquest cycle, because they like to do that to us at CG. So this next character we're going to be talking about very briefly is going to be Torty. This one probably catches a lot of you off guard in that she is mainly modded for health. A lot of people mod her purely for health. I have modded her for health as well. Yeah, you see I do have a health mod set in there and a bit of extra health on the actual mods as well. But I just find defense on her is just really annoying to deal with, obviously, if you're attacking her, because you're going to gain protection up anyway. And for like one prone things that rely on those big damage hits to obviously chunk through that protection up, if you put some armor on her, she's going to be super annoying. I think during 1.5v5 season, I've kind of put like a Wampa Trap sortie team in there, and I think it just came down to they just weren't able to chunk through my sortie at the end, so it got me a hold on several occasions. But the main reason for this is because of her spare parts lead as well. So as you can see here from her lead, droid allies gain an extra 35% defense and 35 speed. And that means she is obviously going to have a lot of extra defense to begin with. She doesn't have any armor on her mastery. That is not there. You do have critical chance, crit damage, deflection, and dodge chance. So if you do have that increased mastery, I suppose the dodges might help a little bit. But that's obviously not where you're going to be getting the most benefit. It's mainly for just mods for this character. But I do believe there is some extra defense in her. Yeah, so here we go. Oh, voice cracked. What was that? Allies with VIP, whenever Sortie is damaged, allies with VIP recover health and protection equal to 5% of blah, 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 blah. Sortie then gains defense up, so she will gain an extra 50% defense when she is hit, or the person in VIP is hit, I think. I can't remember what it said now. And yeah, that is going to help massively with her survivability, as you will obviously see with her protection and things. But even with the 70k health, which just isn't a whole lot for Sortie, you can get that way higher than that. I've still got her pretty fast though. Her armor rating can actually get to pretty high numbers if you can mod her with a decent amount of defense. So I think on the triangle and cross, I actually have some defense mods on her, so she's actually hitting up to 71% armor rating there, which is massive. It's almost the same as some of the tanks that I was showing you. So she can be super annoying to deal with because of the defense, and a lot of people don't expect it. So it's a good like sleeper way of modding her, I suppose. And yeah, obviously you want to be putting our defense, stopping the Wampers. We do have the Lobot rework to go with her as well, so that kind of makes things a bit more annoying to face her on defense. But that is going to be the end of this video. I do hope you've enjoyed me talking about something slightly different than Gran Arena. Obviously, let me know down in the comments whether you think there was someone that I should have included in this video. Obviously, I have probably missed out a lot of characters that can be modded for defense, but the general rule is if it's a tank, defense is probably a good way to go, unless it has like something explicitly in their kit that mentions about health or protection or anything like that. Obviously, just maximize or just look through kits and see where any extra bits of defense is in there, either through like defense up or stacking defense and things like that. It's very beneficial to obviously keep those in mind when you are doing your modding, because obviously you want to amplify those extra stats you're going to get so that you can make your characters even more annoying to kill. But that is going to be it. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall catch you in the next one.